Hey guys, so you're asking about more injection pump tear down videos. I do have a P pump I'm going to tear apart pretty quick here. I got to bring it from the house. I got to dig it out. It's a pump that I know that ran low in oil for a long time, so it's probably only good for parts. But I do have a CP4 here that I got from a customer. He just said, "Here, tear this apart if you want to tear it apart." So we're going to tear this apart. So this is a CP4 off of I think it's a 2011 Ford 6.7. I'm pretty sure that's what his truck is. It's an 11 or a 12. I believe that they're the same for quite a few years, but I've never actually had one of these apart before. So it's actually a learning experience for me as well as you guys. So these things aren't real complicated inside. So this is your fuel control actuator, which is just a solenoid, goes up and down, and then there's a plunger in here and a plunger in here, and then the camshaft or crankshaft, whatever you want to call it. I guess you'd call it crankshaft probably in this instance. And then there's there's going to be a cup that rides on the crank or camshaft inside here. So anyways, let's tear this thing apart. And I don't know if it's any good, or he must have got it in some stuff, because he literally just said when I'm done with it to huck it in the scrap. So which I won't do that. I'll probably tinker and play and see what's completely gizzard one apart, just see what it looks like inside. So this is like I said, I've never had one of these apart. Let's pull the fuel control actuator out first. I know these things definitely have issues with failure. I know that for sure. And there again, I know a little bit about them, but being that I'm not a huge Ford guy, I don't know. But let's just tear it apart and find out. So there is a screen in there that I would imagine that's supposed to try to catch some of the garbage. I'd imagine it probably doesn't catch all of it, but this one actually doesn't look like there's anything in it, so might have been a good pump. Fuel looks actually relatively clean that's in there. Doesn't smell good, but I don't know. There again, I don't know how long this thing's been sitting for, so let's just take some plungers out. Now, taking consideration a lot of this stuff, there is a calibration to it. Ooh. So you can't just, you can take it apart, don't get me wrong. Oh yeah, this thing's definitely been sitting apart for a while because it's rusty inside. Good thing that we didn't try to use this on something. No, I would never do that anyway, but. So, plunger. She's real crusty inside. So basically this is just the plunger that goes back and forth inside here. You can actually see it shooting some crap out of there. And then this one and this other one, this one is where it would go to your high pressure fuel rail. So there'll be an open fuel port, so that would be this one, which would line up with this. Fuel gets pulled in. Looks like it comes directly from, oh yeah, comes from the from the fuel control actuator. And then it's going to go right into this plunger. and then out to the injectors or fuel lines, rails, fuel lines, injectors. Let's take this one off. It's actually got a pretty good spring load in it though. And like I said, this stuff is calibrated, so if you're gonna, I personally wouldn't recommend taking it apart and then trying to put it back together and running it, especially if it looks like this inside. But these things aren't, you know, like a lot of this stuff really isn't rocket science. It's just that there's a calibration for everything, and then it needs to be tested afterwards. Like this, I would imagine this pump's probably just garbage. The amount of rust that's in it, all the parts and stuff in it, I imagine are not usable, because injectors don't like rust. Imagine that plunger probably is supposed to come out of there. Let's just see if we spin this. Oh yeah. Can't hold on to anything for some reason. Well, it's the end of the day, it should get hard to hold on to stuff. So, plungers are up as high as they'll go. I'd imagine that if it wasn't rusty, those plungers would probably pull out of there easy, but let's just pull this face off. By the look of it, it's hard to see probably because it's dirty, but I'm pretty sure this should just pull out of there. But it is stuck. So there again, that's the reason that I recommend not to take stuff apart, especially while injection pump stuff. But for our instance, we don't care what this pump ends up being like. So if I wreck it, it doesn't really matter. It's definitely stuck in there. Like I said, I imagine that just should pull out of there. Oh yeah. Ooh, good and crusty. Guess it does have a roller. If the roller would move there again, I'd imagine it's probably stuck because of the rust. So I'll imagine that roller is probably supposed to turn, but it doesn't look like it's in bad shape. But for the little bit of research that I have done on these, I believe that this is part of the issue with these pumps, is that roller bungs up inside there. Or what happens is it turns perpendicular to the way that it's supposed to roll. Yeah, see, that roller actually don't look bad. Like I said, oh no, that one actually still rolls. See if we can dissect one of those. Oh, cam turns now. But makes me always feels like a kid when makes me feel like a kid when I'm tearing this stuff apart. You never had one apart before. That's a relief of some sort, full of rust and water. Like I said, I'm sure that this probably should come apart pretty easy, but being that it's all bunged up. So after you get it pulled off of there, which I'm sure that's probably, they probably just put a slide hammer on it, and I don't know why I didn't think of that, but I guess when you don't care about it, it doesn't matter. But you can see this thing's like super crusty. I'd imagine it must have been laying outside, because the amount of rust that's in it's crazy. But you can see, so these rollers are just going to run on here. And that's actually a really steep cam. Like, that's a lot of lift. And from what I understand, like I said, from the reading that I've done, is these rollers seize up, and then this will either turn on you or it'll get stuck in there. So yeah, it's one of those things. But anyways, that's what the inside of these things look like. I'd imagine they did it just because it was cheaper to do to start to build this than it was to keep building the CP3, I'd imagine. But no, the grease is dying. I know that S&S Motorsports or S&S Fuel Systems, I'll link it below. They build a kit for these, because I know that the fuel, when the fuel's coming in, it goes into here first and around the cam. So when you have a cam failure or a CP3 failure, what happens is the fuel goes up into the fuel control actuator and then goes out to the plungers. So what happens when it does that is it feeds all the junk and metal from here into the plunger, into the injection system. So it kills the injection system. Now, you can't stop the pump itself from failing, but if you buy their fix kit, what it does is it comes with a spacer. So when you put this on, the fuel actually flows through the spacer, through the fuel control actuator into the plunger, then to it. So the fuel that comes into here to lubricate and cool your actual cam and plungers will go right to the back to the tank. So it actually keeps the system from getting contaminated, but not from the CP3 or CP4 failing. But still a good kit nonetheless, because a CP4 in the scheme of things versus a fuel system is crazy price difference, like thousands and tens of thousands of dollars difference. So you know, that's something I would definitely look into, would be a CP4 fix if you do want to continue to run the CP4. Like I said, this one wasn't in bad shape really, other than it's full of rust obviously, but it would have been a good working pump when it was first pulled off. But anyways, like and subscribe, hit the comments if you want to comment on something, and we'll catch you on the next one, guys.